Check, check, check. Are we live? Are we live on this thing? It's hard for me to tell. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Sorry for the delay. I am back, and I want to walk down. I am here to walk down these kid shows. I hope that you guys will join me on this journey. This coming Sunday, I plan to do a serious platform investigation. So I want to set up a few things here. Is this thing on? I can't even tell. In stream. It must be on. Okay, we must be live. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I want to jump right into it. And unfortunately for my audio app community, this particular one really should be experienced on YouTube. So for my Clubhouse community, I am going to drop the link since we are live. All right. I don't even have my little purple background or nothing. Let me pin this up top, and then I'm going to get right to cooking for my YouTube audience. Let's see, it's not working. I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Okay, for my YouTube community, you guys deserve links. So I think I should get right into it. But I don't have my coffee. I think I want my coffee, you guys. It's 4:06. Can I just admit it's been a heck of a week? Since we're in homeroom, I can be a little flexible. So last week I missed one day out of my campaign, and that was because last week I was doing the National Black AI Literacy Week. If you're big on LinkedIn, you'll probably see it if you just search a little bit. It was a buzz, at least in my network, but a lot of the people in my network were we did a lot of networking time together, so there's a lot of people in my network that were at that event. It was a lot of work, and then that was Monday through Friday. I had Saturday to do the research to prepare for Sunday. I went live on Sunday with Natalie. She's a licensed clinical social worker, one of the speakers at the event, actually. So it was a great networking opportunity. After Natalie on Saturday, now it's Sunday at 4 a.m. And I'm right back at it, y'all. So I'm glad to be back, and I hope that you appreciate my efforts. I don't think I have too much that I want to say. So let me get this going. I'll go get my coffee while this is playing. That's what's about to happen. So let me drop this. Let me share. D to D. I know what I want to do. Oh, I don't know why this is not switching the way I want it to. Oh, here, add. Yep, this is where we're gonna go. I'm gonna start with this dude. I've been watching, for some reason, this dude has come up a lot in my feed. And so I'm going to hit you guys with a couple of these from this cat, because he cares a lot about this issue. All right, check him out, and I'll be back with my coffee. Yeah.
Kids literally need to face risk. If you don't give them risk, they'll find a way to get it. They'll climb up on walls. They'll climb trees. If they skateboard, they'll skateboard downstairs. Kids need to have some actual risk. You have to put kids in a situation where they can get hurt, because only then do they learn every day how to not get hurt. And what we've done since the 90s is we've put them in places that are so safe, there's no chance to get hurt, which means they don't learn how to not get hurt. The human program of evolution is kids face risk, they're a little scared, they have to be a little scared, they overcome it, and then they're more confident the next time around. And that's the path to adulthood. But we stopped that in the 90s. We said, no more of that. We're going to keep you overprotected forever, and then we're going to send you to universities like mine, where you're coming in still not ready for independent living. Kids need to play, but they especially need.
So that was about risky play. This is the one path, which he's obviously an advocate of, which is this idea that the kids should have a more, I'll put it in air quotes, traditional upbringing, a screen-free upbringing. Let's let him cook a little bit more, because there's a few more things that I want to share with you specifically from this guy. let's share this one. Boom. Share it. Let me resize it. And bring you in for the good of the group. Check this guy out.
Less than it could be permanently. I think that Gen Z is not, even if we look at them in 30, 40 years, my prediction is they'll be less successful than they would have been if they'd had normal human childhoods. So I think we will see a permanent effect on Gen Z.
But that's a tragedy, John.
Oh, this is the greatest destruction of human capital in human history. We've taken an entire generation globally. We've taken away what they need biologically to develop, risk exposure, hanging out time. We've taken all that away and given them something unnatural. It's completely insane that when puberty starts, which is around 11 or 12 for girls and around 13 or 14 for boys, basically when we give them a phone and say, how about no more real world experience? How about you spend 10 hours a day on this thing? And just as if we gave our kids alcohol every hour, that would disrupt neural growth. Well, I would say giving them 4 hours a day of video games for the boys or 5 hours a day of video games for the girls, it's going to disrupt neural growth. But it doesn't mean that each kid in Gen Z is condemned to a life of anxiety, because the human brain is quite malleable up through 25. And even after that, we can all learn new thinking patterns and new behavior patterns. The millennials were different in the way that every generation is different. So every generation has stereotypes of the one after them. They're soft, they're self-involved. That's been true for since about the 16th century. Once you get modernity, you get rapid change. Each generation thinks the one behind it is defective. But that's always been the case. What we have here is something very new. Gen Z is not just that they're different; it's that they're really anxious, fragile. They have no attention to focus on things, and they're just not very effective. I mean, they're so anxious, and they're always taking days off, and they don't take initiative on things, and they expect others to come and fix things. I mean, so Gen Z is not integrated into the workforce well. None of this is their fault. This poor generation, they were the first that were completely deprived of play, and then they were the first to go through puberty on smartphones, and then that Gen Z will be less than it could be permanently. I think that Gen Z is not, even if we look at them in 30, 40 years, my prediction is they'll be less successful than they would have been if they'd had normal human childhoods. So I think we will see a permanent effect on Gen Z.
But that's a tragedy, John.
Oh, this is the greatest destruction of human capital in human history.
The greatest destruction of human capital in human history. Hey, Carla, come on up if you have time. Shout out to Key and Suze. Glad you guys are here as well. This guy is cooking, and I'm not going to turn down the heat. So he is calling what is happening to our generation the greatest destruction of human capital in human history. He goes on to say that the solution to this is to stop. He's not interested in some sort of hybrid dynamic. He says we have to reverse the addictive behavior and get these kids off of these things. It's at least up and through puberty is his recommendation, but he's not done yet. I wish I had the one where he was talking to Oprah, because that was a really good one, especially for the point that I'm trying to make, but I had to let it go. Good morning, you guys. Hey, glad you guys are here. All right, look at YouTube making us moves. For those of you in the listening lounge, you might want to benefit from the homeroom because I'm playing these clips. They're good on audio, but I think you would have a more full experience on video. Okay, so let me show this next one, and then I think I will step back and have Carla give greetings to the room. Sharing the screen. Bing, bang, boom. Let's go with this one. Let's bring it in some. Shout out to Leticia for the feedback on how to make this experience better for the YouTube viewer. I like to switch because it looks like I'm actually looking at the screen with you. All right, let's get this one in.
Norms that I think can break us out of this trap. Norm number one, no smartphone before high school. You can give your kid a flip phone. The millennials had flip phones. They came out fine.
No access or no smartphone of their own?
Your own. You can't have your own. Rule number two is the most relevant for what we're just talking about, and that is no social media until 16. There is, I believe, no way to make social media safe for children. For when your kids are 9 to 15 years old, you should be extra careful about what's going into their eyes and ears. And instead, that's when we give up all control. The third norm is phone-free schools. No, you should be learning, not doing more TikTok in school. So it's just insane that we let kids take the greatest distraction devices ever invented into the classroom with them.
I'm going to stop it there. The greatest distraction device ever invented. So he gives 3 solutions, and I'm going to call it at, once again, he says post-puberty. So that could be, around 16. Post-puberty, 13, is when it will start, but when does it kind of settle in? Yeah, maybe 16. So no social media, no smartphones. Give them a flip phone. Give them I have a clip that I'm not going to play, but it talks about the history of the cell phone. Y'all might remember when cell phones had, they look like little bricks and they had little battery packs that look like little briefcases, so give them one of those. And phone free schools. Now, Carla was there at the conference on Sunday. If you missed it, the replay is available on YouTube. I have really been investing time in developing the production value, so I hope the one that you see on Sunday, if you catch out the replay, would be at least mildly impressive, especially if you compare it to what I did previously. I'm slowly on my way, and I appreciate your support. So this guy's going hard in the paint when it comes to the issue of the cell phones. He calls it the greatest destruction of human capital. He has what many of the colleagues that I've talked to since I've been on this journey, his recommendation is really quite severe. Quite extreme to say have them wait until 16, no social media, no personal device of their own. Carla, you've been walking down this journey with me. I wonder, and you've parented. I remember you've publicly told your story about your niece. And so do you have a ideal age to start cell phone use? And or do you, how would I say? Yeah, I think that's where I want to start. What would be your initial, I have my own phone, age, be, and why? Carla, if you're available, I'd love to hear your response to that.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think that's an interesting question. I was listening. I don't necessarily totally agree with him. However, there is some truth to what he said. Yes, my niece, I remember when she didn't have any devices, and she would come home and she would get on the computer. She had her own little account on Child Lock, and she was, maybe she was young, she was little, and she got in school and she actually came home and started telling me what they were learning in school. And so she wanted to get on the computer. So she had certain times she could be on. There were certain things she could do on the computer. And after that, she got off, and there were other pieces to her life. We didn't forsake connection time, going out, doing things. So I think it was more balanced.
Hmm.
I don't think that a child that is of young age, when I say 5 to 9, needs their own cell phone. And I would agree that probably if they're going to have their own cell phone, 12,
Hmm.
13, maybe, because they then get to show me if they can be responsible. And the years prior to that, I'm teaching them and I'm working with them on what responsibility looks like, how we use the screen time. I am not, I'm limiting their screen time. I am not avoiding it because I think there are great educational tools, and screen time can teach a lot if you're using the right programs and they're accessing the right things. So I think I'm learning, Hassan, to differentiate screen time and categories. I have the educational, challenging activities, coding, um, projects, learning how to do research, things like that, versus just I'm scrolling TikTok or I'm watching Instagram videos. So I'm beginning to categorize it differently versus putting it all into one bucket.
That's fair.
Thank you for
I,
asking.
yeah, no, thank you for that response. I think that's fair, and I also think that's very responsible of you. Um, I'll offer this, because I am positioning my thoughts on this as well. On the one hand, I think that there is space for kids to use screen time for purely entertainment purposes. I have seen my little one, and he'll have his own long week at school. And he be, not to put words in his mouth, but he'd be like, Dad, I just want to kick it. And then we just watch a little dumb YouTube for a while. So I will offer that I have room for non-educational screen time use as part of what I'm defining as balance. The second thing I'll offer is I, as many parents, have had that phase where the dopamine hit was so big that when it was time to turn the device off for these entertainment purposes, he would have the same physiological response as some of the videos that I've shown, right? He will be, low-key temper tantrum type, delay, time to get off the device. Okay, dad, delay. He really doesn't want to. Times when it was disrupting his sleep. This is all in a relatively short amount of time, the impact. But since I have had this struggle with him and set the boundaries, I've noticed that his response when it's time to get off has gotten healthier over time. It was a journey to get there, but now, and like you, we've had the conversation about what does it mean to be responsible and responsible use with the device. And so, we set up a little timer, and when the timer goes off, he's much better at just turning the device off and coming to bed. I give him Friday night stay up late time. And so it used to be that, anyway, I don't want to take you too much into my house, but what I will say is he's getting better with self-managing the device because we have had to struggle through it over time. So I think there is a pathway. Hey, Miss Cleo, welcome on.
Respond to that?
Yeah, please. And then I'll pass it to Miss Cleo. Go ahead, Carla.
Okay. I think that the key thing I heard was you as the parent helping to set the boundaries. And I think that's where we miss with the children. That does not always occur. So they get the wide exposure where they're sitting there for hours and hours
Yeah,
on
I've seen
end.
that.
And so for ourselves, I'm not just going to put it on the kids. I've been there playing word games on the computer. I like to do the word games, puzzles. And it's like, I look up, it's midnight, it's almost 1 a.m. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna play one more game. I'm just gonna play
that one more game.
Okay. And if I'm honest, we're sitting on here and everybody's been so responsible, but
Right.
this is truth, right? Courageous honesty.
Courageous honesty.
So, and I've had to live through it. So I don't blame the children if they don't have responsible people in their lives to help them frame it. Because we had screen time, it might have been, our gaming system, Nintendo or whatever we had. But I remember there was a time and a place, a season for everything. So I think you're doing the responsible thing by helping him to learn how to play and how to be serious.
Yeah, he definitely, the screen is not the high priority of things that we do. So yeah, for sure. Hey, Miss Cleo, good morning. Welcome back to Homeroom.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late. I kind of lost track of time.
Girl, I started late too. Look, and Sundays are a beast. Okay, so getting up this early on a Monday right after is rough work. I'll be honest with you. So you are welcome
I was
here.
mad I couldn't stay the whole time. I had a friend whose son was in the hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. My condolences.
He's all right. It was just, the timing.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's called Homeroom. What's the other one called?
We have a name for the other one.
Oh, okay.
It's just the
If
live
you call
conference.
this
Yeah.
Oh, live conference. Here we go.
What were you gonna say?
I, I don't know.
I don't know either. We're just present, and the branding will work itself out over time. Okay, I'm gonna play
But I
this.
appreciate those.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, love at you, sis. I'm gonna play the next clip, and that'll give you a chance to kind of warm up to where we're at in the discussion. Yeah, I'll just leave it like that. So this next clip, I think, is going to be best suited for the YouTube stream. So if you are with us in the app, maybe click over to the YouTube. YouTube tends to be about 6 seconds behind us anyway, so it'll give you time to go over there and check out this. This is my first treatise on Coco Melon. It's a bit of a long one, but so this is the Coco Melon intro song, and this is a variety of parents who are playing it, and their infant child, this child that you see on the screen, can be more than 18 months, walkable age, so maybe 18 to 2 years. But you're going to see how the kids respond just by hearing the intro song, how well engineered this thing is. So let me go back to it. I think you guys have had some time to get to the screen. Sliding down the stairs to get to the show. It's interesting if you I'm no deep psychologist, but if you just watch the face of the kids when they're coming, there's this face of like desire. There's the face brings up like it's a Pavlovian. It's hard to describe. You really have to see it for yourself. But if you watch when they come in, there's this level of anticipation for the show. Let's watch the next one. This family got 3 kids. All 3 of the kids came in. All right, this will be the last one, then I'll stop. They come running. Here's another one. Kids asleep, but they'll hear that sound. So there is something going on, and I don't know if I remember it. Maybe I do, actually. I have to be honest, because it's easy to judge from my dear ripe old age. There was a thing called Saturday morning cartoons, and there were certain cartoons, Captain Planet. What else? What were some of y'all Saturday morning cartoons? Oh, y'all gonna leave me out there, huh? All right, that's fine.
No, the YouTube had caught up, and so I
Oh,
have it open on the screen that was here. So there's that delay, and
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
probably it. I haven't counted, but it feels like it's more than 6 seconds, and I don't know if it's just like 6 seconds. Feels like a long time uh on here. So
Well, welcome back. Welcome back
okay.
to the present. Saturday morning cartoons. Did you have any that were
You
on your
said
top?
one. Captain Planet definitely was one.
Yep.
Um, this wasn't a cartoon. I don't know if it was Saturday morning, but I liked Fraggle Rock. I remember watching Fraggle Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, feel like by the time Rugrats was out, I was actually older.
Mm.
I'm about to look up 80s babies
Cartoons.
cartoons.
Yeah, I was a
What?
Scooby Doo was
Mm,
probably in my era. Transformers was probably in my era. Um, He-Man was probably mine.
oh, I remember
Smurfs,
Thundercats. Thunder,
Thundercats.
Thunder, Thunder, Thundercats.
Yep, Thundercats. I think by the time
She-Ra.
She-Ra and He-Man for sure were of that era. Uh,
DuckTales. I
oh,
loved
woo.
Duck. Yes, I love
For
DuckTales.
sure, for sure.
G.I. Joe Extreme. I remember that.
Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't be too
Care Bears.
judgmental. Care Bears.
Yeah, Care
I
Bears
hate
was
to admit it, but
good.
I was into some Care Bear, with a little power energy coming out of their chest for sure. Um, there was something where it started to go live. What was that show where the actors were actually in suits and they had little helmets on? Power Rangers? Like that's sort of when I started
Oh,
aging out, was around
little
that
Power
time.
Rangers. Yeah, I was gonna say that's. I remember watching Power Rangers, but that was towards like upper elementary, and
Mm-hmm.
then it was kind of like when it was coming out, I was a little bit older. Inspector Gadget.
Ooh, good one.
I do. I do remember that. That I
Yeah,
enjoyed Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget was good. Gadget.
I said DuckTales, right?
You
Yeah,
said
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Ooh. I
Yeah. Oh yeah,
remember
because
me
I
some
said
DuckTales. So suffice it to say, we had our picks, we had our shows. Maybe it wasn't as strong of a trigger, but if some cousin or some sibling called from the other room and was like, "Hey, insert favorite show is on," yeah, I would come a running. So maybe I'm being a little too judgmental, but where is this other piece? Oh,
Oh,
I
I left out Barney. Forgot about Barney.
no Barney. I,
that
I
was.
aged out of Barney.
Yeah, I was too old.
But see, I was watching my
Sorry.
cartoon with
Oh,
my little one at
sure.
that time. She loved Barney. Was a big
Mm.
one.
Barney,
And
I
my
And
think.
brother
Rugrats.
liked Barney. My brother, the Rugrats. Like I said, I think for Rugrats, I technically was older watching it. Um, but Barney, it definitely was my brother. Ghostbusters was another one.
Ghostbusters.
Oh, that's a good
Gargoyles.
one. That's a good one. I remember the kids too running to the screen. It's different because they didn't have it in their hands. But Sesame Street had that kind of attraction that you were
Mm,
talking about. Kids would hear the tune and they would go running for Sesame Street.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Because
I don't
there
even remember the
is,
Sesame Street too.
but you remember those characters, those fuzzy puppet
Yeah.
characters,
I remember Sesame Street and Muppet Babies.
and the Muppet Babies. I'm glad you guys been because I wanted to talk about Sesame. I have a clip. I'm just kind of scrolling through my clips to find the one. I found a clip of Vanessa Wanga talking about homeschooling, so I can't wait to get her introduced. Oh man, I wish I had these labeled, but it's just not that type of party.
Are you
But
going to do a series on people leaving the profession or
yes,
leaving? If so, this is not self-serving, but I would love to talk about people who leave not the profession but the country. Um,
don't forget Reading Rainbow, says Leticia Wilson over on YouTube. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah. I was just saying, like, if you would be interested in not people who leave the profession, but who leave the states because of what's happening. So
How do I say? My thought was to take the angle of educational entrepreneurship as it relates to leaving the profession. But I think in that, because I like to do these multi-part walk downs, maybe we could wrap a whole show around your experience as an international educator, because I think it would be an option that many educators don't take up and don't even know how to approach. So I think there could be some great value there if you're open to it.
just yeah, yeah. I was just saying that's what I was thinking from a multi-point standpoint, like the different avenues that people, go. Because I do think entrepreneurship is one. I think other professions is another. So like people who move over to like counseling and social work
Hmm.
and things like that, and then people who move, literally just move, which would be like me and things like that, who are like, yeah, no, I'm not. I still love the job. Like I got reinvigorated by the job by leaving the
Mm.
United States. So like, uh, yeah, and I know a couple other people on the app who are international educators. So I
I'm
just want to put that out there as
Yeah,
something
no, it's out
in
there, and I
future.
appreciate it because and we can digress a little bit. It's homeroom, we don't have to be so formal, but I do think that there is a lot of questions that I have regarding teaching, the cultural impact, because I can't assume that a classroom in Pakistan, and I just made that up, operates the same way that a typical American classroom operates. And so I'm curious about, what they consider best practices, kind of their culture of the classroom, or is it the same? Is it the same? The bell rings, you got 50 minutes, or you got the block schedule, you got these set up things, and the kids are the same. They got the same problems, the same developmental, journey or whatever. So I'm curious about that. Let's save it. But yeah, I think there's a lot that I
Yeah,
would
no,
like to know.
I was more sometime in the future. I know you got some series coming up, but
Hmm.
if you talk about if you get into the topic of people leaving, I think that would be an angle worth exploring.
Yeah.
I
Um,
think what would be even interesting too is hearing your perspective, Adrian, or even if there are others who've had that journey on what's different. What did you see that was an aha? What did you see that helped you realize where we're short? Or what are we doing well that maybe you didn't see? I think having that contrast for educators would be really helpful as well.
Because we don't, every once in a while I get an international guest to come on live and talk about what's going on in their country. But I don't think I have a strong enough population back yet for that. So yeah, I think the timing will work out really quite well. To continue this journey, Sesame Street actually is a feature that I want to put on the record because they might have been the precursor to all of this. The level of research, well, I'll let the clip play for itself, but this was the era of the Cosbys was around the time that the Sesame Street was on. And I think that the level of intentionality that these two shows had regarding the narrative that they were trying to put across was really quite intentional. And I think it was really intentional towards the good of the group, the good of their audience. And that, I believe, has since changed. So when you look at this and set the level of intentionality, it does set the stage for what is going on in terms of how shows are done today, just with very different intent. So check this out. Shout out to the Sesame Street team.
Is a really fascinating example of a learning epidemic. And I devote a chapter to.
They call it a learning epidemic, right? They created the show such that kids couldn't help but learn. Let me let them continue.
Trying to figure out why this show was so incredibly successful. The answer is that our conception of that show is all wrong. We think of it as Jim Henson and a bunch of really clever guys sitting around coming up with, pulling ideas out of their hat. In fact, it's a show that's created by a team of cognitive psychologists, the leading cognitive psychologists of the day, sat down and engineered segment by segment how to structure information so that it fits into the head of 3-year-olds. In other words, how does a 3-year-old think? And how can I put letters on the screen or structure the narrative or the dialogue here so that it fits right into their head and has what I call stickiness, which I think is a very critical component in creating an epidemic.
What's stickiness?
Stickiness would be, for an idea to be epidemic, it must be more than contagious. It must have more than the ability to spread from you to me. You also have to remember it, right? It has to make an impact on you. So if I want to start an epidemic of learning in kids, it's not enough to hold a child's attention for 50 minutes in a television show. That information has to stay with them, so it creates a learning process that affects when they go to school 2 years down the road. And that was what they were looking for. And they did all of this extraordinary, at the time, really quite revolutionary stuff in trying to measure, like they would strap kids in chairs and put these special goggles on them. And, you'd have Grover on the screen saying cat, and the letter CAT would appear on the screen. And so they would have these goggles which allowed them to track where the eyeballs of the kids are moving.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And if the kids were looking at Grover and not the letters, then they would scrap it and start over again. Or if the kids were looking at the letters but they were going right to left and not left to right, they would scrap it and start over again. So it's that kind of extraordinary attention to detail that was the tipping point for that show. Sesame Street.
So there was for these guys, and this level of research, I think, is the segue to part of what is happening today, just a lot less careful. Would strap these goggles on and track their eyes, but their goal was, if they were looking at the character and not the letter, let's have the character do less to reduce that attention and draw to the letter. If they were looking at the letters but the wrong letters, they would scrap it and make that first letter bigger and bolder to draw the attention so that the kids couldn't help but learn. But then here, and I know I've already played this clip, but I can't find the one on Coco Melon, so I'll play this one, which kind of emphasizes the point.
The number of young people that the Taliban could recruit. The biggest recruitment ground for the Taliban was Waziristan. It's in Western Pakistan. Even the Pakistani army doesn't go there. There was nothing for young men to do. Their attention was up for grabs. I went undercover and I realized that these young men, it's not that they want to join the Taliban, it's that they're bored. Nothing is taking their attention and they don't know how to make money. For them, Shaheed Hona is an epic thing. If you die, you get $5,000 for your family. Now, what we did was we made a video game that was so addictive. The way we built the video game is we got a bunch of people that were similar, put them in a room, asked them to play the video game. Every time they looked away from the screen, we looked at the problem, fixed the problem, to the point where they were so addicted they couldn't look away from the screen.
I'm gonna leave it there because I've played it before, but That's the level of design now. So what happened with Sesame Street and the good intentions is now being used to keep their eyes on the screen, not for learning purposes, but as we've kind of heard, for the purpose of attention, capturing attention. So yeah, I have some serious concerns about what is happening with these screens. And I think that there's just too much intention around attention, such that it's eroding their attention because there's a constant shifting going on. So this is my thoughts on Coco Melon. I want to bring up, I'll send out some invitations. Andre, Frofro, and Tide are all here. Good morning, you guys. Welcome to Homeroom Morning Show. I'm going to pass the mic. I don't know if I've laid enough groundwork. I don't know how long you guys have been here because I've been watching the show myself. But I see Tide and Andre here. Why don't I give you guys a chance to weigh in, or at least let me know if you've got enough context. So Tide and then Andre. What comes up for you, Tide?
Hey, yes, it would be helpful if I had a little bit more context. I just arrived probably just a few moments ago.
For sure. Take your time. Andre as well, I'm going to assume, or do you want to weigh in now?
Just a little bit. Like what you said, especially like the last segment that you played. It's been epidemic, but in the other direction. Like I've noticed with all of those kids shows, they were trying to grab attention without providing any content. So it's sort of like a fast food for the brain, right? You're not getting any calories or nutrition, so you're just getting, filled up with whatever content they're pushing on you. And I think it's partially because the marketing techniques, they got injected into the kids shows without any intention or positive intention. So like the money making aspect of it became so strong and so prevalent that they kind of gave up on the quality information and content, and decided to get as many clicks as possible or as many subscriptions as possible.
No, that's exactly what this is about. I'm gonna play the next clip, which is about some let me just cue it up on the YouTube in case you want to be over there. Now, these ladies do have a rather thick accent, and some of the shows that they are referring to may not be, let me bring this up, may not be available in the US, but I think many of them we are familiar with, so I think it's a good fit for right now. These professionals are going to give ratings out of 10 to some of the classic cartoon shows. And what I appreciate is her perspective on why she's rating. It's super rapid fire, so I may jump in and just clarify a few things here or there. But here are the popular shows and what these professionals think in terms of the quality of the show for the kids that you may expose them to.
These Indian cartoons 0 to 10. Chota Bheem.
Chota Bheem looks like a family. I don't know anything about it, but let's hear her rating.
4 on 10, high action, repetitive fight scenes, not much educational value.
Shin Chan.
-5 on 10, teaches children to be disrespectful, very spoiled, whiny child.
So the disrespectful, spoiled, that would kind of gives me energy like a Bart Simpson type. Whiny child, they call it. So she said -5 on 10.
Motu Patlu.
3 on 10, slapstick humor, exaggerated violence, not much educational.
Doraemon.
5 on 10, some themes on friendship and pro-social behavior, but still hyperstimulating.
Pokemon.
6 on 10.
Pokemon, 6 on 10. Good for older kids.
Good for older kids, has some themes of friendship and competitive spirit.
So I think it's fair, right? My son was really big into Pokemon. I have, if your kids aren't into Pokemon yet, I have a million cards. Please take these cards out of my house. But just based on that, I think that her capacity to do the evaluations is really quite fair. The competitive spirit, the lessons on friendship. Yes, I see that in Pokemon. So she gave it 6 on 10. So with that, I think her judgment is pretty fair. As you've picked up, some of these shows I'm not familiar with, but some of them as we move forward, I think we become more familiar with. This one's called Ogie and the Cockroaches is what she's about to evaluate next.
Ogie and the Cockroaches.
2 on 10. Non-stop violence, slapstick humor.
Tom and Jerry.
6 on 10. Good old 90s show. A little fast-paced, but funny.
Thank God. It's something I would still love watching.
Oh, this isn't the one. Oh, she has another one, which I think is even more valuable because it talks about shows that are more in the United States. But here she goes. I'm sorry to
Rate from 0 to 10 these popular kids shows. Miss Rachel.
Miss Rachel, there's another clip about a parent who really hypes up Miss Rachel because and the question was what came up at our conference about the issue of screen time. But this screen, says the parent, is purely for educational value, and I could tell it has an impact because my kid brings the lessons from the show into the household. So I think this is a great first step. But these are the shows that I think we'll be more familiar with, and then I'll turn it over to you guys to try to find that balance as it relates to potentially educational shows. All right, let's check this one out.
6 on 10, she uses techniques that speech language pathologists do, but it's better if the parent watches it and then imitates those techniques.
Dancing fruits.
Minus 100.
Okay.
Absolutely no educational value. Marketed towards babies.
Coco melon.
Minus 1000 on 10. Hyperstimulating. Addictive. Nothing good to say about Coco melon.
Little bear.
10 on 10. Hand-drawn cartoons. Very slow pacing. No hyperstimulating.
Bluey.
Bluey, 40 on 10. Bluey is very relevant to today's world. Empathetic storytelling. Teaches the child a lot of real world skills.
Trash truck.
10 on 10. Very empathetic storytelling, very slow paced, very sweet show.
Live animal camps.
1000 on 10. It's very low stimulation and very educational.
Diana and Roma.
1 on 10. Extremely materialistic, teaches the child to ask for more toys, does not teach the child any real world skills.
Peppa Pig.
4 on 10, mildly entertaining. Apapo, it's funny for children, but they're rude sometimes, they're nasty to the parents sometimes.
Vlad and Nikki.
1 on 10. Again, they're materialistic. They don't really teach anything of value. Basic concepts are taught.
All right, I'll stop it there. Great analysis, I think, of some modern popular shows. This lady is the Screen-Free Parent. That's the name of her Instagram channel. She's got a lot of good stuff as it relates to this topic. So if you're personally interested, you might want to follow. Matter of fact, let me drop her channel because you guys might want to follow her. It is something that I would recommend. Control V. If we get her popular enough, maybe we can get her onto our show. So drop it and say, hey, check out Educator's House, because I've been trying to email that lady and she is not responding back. So anyway, all right. The shows. So here we've got a nice little treatise of shows, some of which have good educational value and some of which have poor educational value. And so there is perhaps a space for screen time, but who is determining these shows, I think, is the big issue. So with that said, I am coming for Coco Melon on this Sunday. I found there is a clip that I'm looking for, but I haven't been able to track it down yet. So how early is too early to have kids in front of the screen? What shows are good? What shows are bad? Are we as elders just being bitter because we don't get the joy and the dopamine of watching these kids shows the way the kids do? And we're just projecting our own hateration on kids of today. What do you guys think? I'll pass it down to the new speakers. And Fro, you've been here for a little bit. What's come up for you since we've been talking about this? Fro, you available?
On listen only, Husan.
Oh, okay, thanks for that update. Tide, you're in the space. What do you think about these shows, and what do you see when you're in the classroom? Because if I'm not mistaken, you're dealing with the little ones, elementary age. Is that still the case, or do I have you wrong?
I work with the high school kids primarily, but we spoke about the other week you had homeroom, there was a student at a local high school who had done some research on early childhood education and the impact of screen time and everything. And so I definitely don't think that it's projecting any kind of haterade on to kids, because it is the adult's responsibility to look out for their best interest. And we do live in a modern era. So I think it's important to just be balanced about screen time and saying there's a time for everything. There's a time to play outside. There's a time to watch a movie. It's okay. It's going to be okay. In my opinion, if we have strong parents that provide and teach us how to be balanced in our own use of these digital devices. And honestly, that includes adults too. There have been lots of memes and things like that online. I'm sure you guys have seen them, where the kids are wanting to play with their parents, but their parents are sitting on the couch and staring at their screens while the child is, wanting their attention. So I do think that just having a balanced approach both in the classroom and outside is what's needed.
But Todd, if we can, let me jump into your wheelhouse. So by the time they get to high school, a couple things come up for me. You can respond however you want. On the one hand, because the bulk of my career is in that same space. Are they cooked at that point? One. Two, do you see much diversity where you can tell when you walk into a classroom which ones are sort of like hooked on their device and which ones were raised in a more device free? At this point, has their relationship with the device sort of been solidified? And then the third kind of wondering that comes up for me in high school is their level of priority. Would they rather skip your class to go outside and learn the new TikTok dance? And how do you manage that, right? So when they get to your age at high school, even though we're now talking about what's happening in childhood, has the cake already been baked, or do you see diversity and still room for pushing back? What's going on at your high school regarding screens is my question.
Yes, that's a really great question. So in Virginia, the governor signed an executive order banning cell phones from schools, and that went into effect this year. And that also applied to the high schools and elementary schools alike. And so what we saw, and which was very encouraging, and it was not just at our school that saw these things, it was at other public schools that saw these things. I know because I go to their school board meetings and things like that. And pretty much every teacher and administrator vouched for the fact that students were talking to each other more at the high school level. It was nice to see kids standing in the hallways next to their lockers and just having conversation. And then in addition to that, even some of the kids reported that they enjoyed lunch more. They felt less anxious and apprehensive about school, and they were actually having conversations with their friends. I did talk to one student who said that him and his friends, he came up to me very, very proud, and he said, "Guess what, Miss Hernandez, me and my friends have an inside joke." And I said, "Oh, really?" And, just kind of talked it up.
Yeah.
And I did ask him, I said, "Do you think that inside joke would have occurred if you were able to use your cell phones during lunch?" And they weren't even allowed to use their cell phones during lunch. So it was a
full ban.
Totally phone-free day. It wasn't just in class. It was also during lunch, out in the halls and things like that. And he paused when I asked him that question, and he says, "You know what? I don't think that it would have." So I do think that the kids are not going to make the decision themselves because they're teenagers. I wouldn't have made the right decision as a kid either. So that's why I don't say, like, for me personally, I'm certainly not pouring any haterade on the kids because I know what I would have done as a kid unless I had a great mother, and I did have a great mother. So for me, I understand that the kids are not going to make the right decision for themselves, and that's okay because that's part of growing up and they're not fully developed. But the adults in their lives really do need to make these decisions on their behalf because that is what we're here for. However, with that being said, as a teacher, I've been teaching for 12 years. I'm going into year 13 now.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service.
It's been an amazing ride for sure. So one of the interesting things that I have not been as thrilled with is the fact that many teachers have been purporting that cell phones are having a negative impact on children for at least a decade. I'm going into year 13. So for the past 12 years, teachers have been telling administrators and government officials, hey, these cell phones are having a negative impact on these kids. It's affecting their memory, their ability to retain information, their ability to learn information, their attention span, their behavior, their emotional regulation. All these things, teachers have been saying this and sounding the alarm for a literal decade or more, and no one has done anything about it. And in fact, many administrators have said, well, we don't want to take away their cell phones because, parents could sue us. I think a lot of people were afraid of the litigation aspect, or they just, even if it wasn't litigation, they were just afraid to go toe to toe with the parents and actually make the right decision.
Yeah.
And so it took a governor's executive order to actually make the adults in these kids' life do their jobs. And even then you saw some resistance. There was a school in Virginia Beach. I do think it was politically motivated, but there was a school in Virginia Beach that went against, directly defied the governor's executive order and said, we are going to allow the kids to have cell phones in school. And I don't think that there was any legitimate reason for them to do that. I think they just wanted to do it because the governor was of a different political party than the leadership at that school. So now, to answer your question specifically about, are the kids cooked? Is the cake baked? At the high school level, I would say that there is a generational shift that is occurring. So, for example, right now, I teach the kids that are on the cusp of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And Gen Z ends, hold on one second.
I'm gonna come to you, Andre, next.
Get ready to take a shower.
All right.
But I teach the kids that are on the cusp of Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And for the past 10 years, I've taught only Gen Zers. So for the Gen Zers, I have noticed that there is a tremendous spike in anxiety and depression. Many of them are on depression medication or medication for mental health issues. And there may be a correlation. I'm not saying that correlation equals causation, but I think that there probably is a correlation between the amount of screen time and Gen Z's mental health. So in that aspect of things, they have had a more difficult time because, as I said before, the kids have not had the adults in their life to really teach them how to live. And there's even a new book out on that concept called The Anxious Generation.
Yeah,
you have not read that?
I've seen the title floating. Go ahead.
Yeah, but now there is we're getting, the pendulum is swinging more to the middle. So it went one way with Gen Z, and now the pendulum is coming back more towards the middle, and I'm teaching what I call the Zalphas, which are the hybrid kids that are not totally Gen Z, but they're not totally Gen Alpha either. And I have noticed that that particular group is a little bit more balanced when it comes to their screen time. And it's interesting that they are on the cusp generationally as their parents. Many of their parents are also on the cusp of two different generations. They're on the cusp of being Gen Xers and millennials. So the people who are like in their late 30s or their early 40s, that generation is the one raising the micro generation that I am teaching. So you have a micro generation raising a micro generation at the high school level anyway. And I do think that is one of the reasons why the pendulum has swung to the middle, and we're kind of in that honeymoon, that sweet spot right now at the high school.
Let me cut you off, actually.
That's so extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me push this over. get in the water, as I would tell my son. Andre, now that you've kind of seen where we're going with this, I wonder if you have a response, or should I push into the next clip? All right, Andre may have moved into listen-only mode. Fabian, I see you came up on stage. Welcome, my bro. Do you want to weigh in now or wait a little bit? All right, Fabian may also be in listen-only. I'm going to mute your mic. Just flash in when you're ready. Or maybe that's my own PTR that's problematic. All right, listen, guys, to be honest with you, it's 4:56. So I am here concerned about the screens, and we've seen kind of where this is going. So projecting forward, I want to, on Wednesday's homeroom, look at, I haven't decided. I think I have a lot to say about Roblox, but to be honest, the angle that I want to take on Roblox is really more about digital predation. And I have a whole conference on that online grooming experience and how people are catfishing our kids. So I kind of want to save my Roblox treatise for a future session. So I might do something about Instagram, because I'm going to venture to say that Instagram is the accessible one for this early adolescence, late elementary, middle school age. And then I want to do TikTok. I believe that TikTok is the most popular platform for that later, let me say, mid-adolescence, high school age. I want to do a platform by platform analysis. So that's sort of where my head is at leading up to Sunday's conference. So anyway, listen, guys, I am glad that you guys are here, and I want you to continue to think about what your position is when it comes to screen time and your kids' development. I do have a survey that's on our YouTube channel, and so I would invite you guys to check that out. I'm going to drop the link if I can get to it in a reasonable amount of time. Post and copy this. Copy. Check this out, and please cast your vote. It would really be helpful to me. so that I can share the data back out with the community. Paste this here. They're simple one question surveys, but there's a bunch of them, so you can answer whichever ones you like. Let me pass it to Andre as we get ready to wind up. What comes up for you, my good friend?
Sorry, so just really to build on what Tide was talking about, I've noticed that, and this is obviously anecdotal, it's like has to do with my kids, but I mean, I had some experiences in the classrooms way back when I was still doing some teaching, when like completely in line with what she was describing. But with my own kids, it was the same thing. I just noticed a more aggressive behavior if they were allowed to have more screen time than, we're usually comfortable with. And after we noticed this, we became very intentional. No matter like how tired I am, no matter like what was going on during the day, we tried to spend like one-on-one or like group time without any screens with kids doing some activities. There's plenty, by the way, there are plenty of resources that you can use, household items like like rolls of toilet paper, sheets of paper, and create little games with the kids to get them engaged, to have some educational value in it. But one of the programs that I actually am very happy with, and I've been like, it was a go-to, was number blocks and alpha blocks. And especially with number blocks, my oldest one, he is, I think, 1 or 2 grades ahead in his math because of that program, because we tried as soon as possible to get him into.
I'm going to jump in on that too. So for mine, we were big on paper and fat markers. I set up this thing. In fact, I convinced myself that I had cracked the code to reading and writing, and was going to try to turn it into an actual product. So who knows? You might find Husan Thompson's reading reading wall, or whatever I'm going to call it. But yeah, I would take. We would have a number of the day. We would have a letter of the day. We would have what else was on there? A shape and a color. This is all his pre-reading stuff. And so throughout the day, this is preschool, he would color each of these. And then over the course of the day, as he added one new thing, it would become a story. So, maybe we start with the number 4, but then we had 4 green, and, the word of the day might have been, let's say, frog. So now there's a story building about the 4 green frogs, and, they were stepping on the diamond or whatever. So then we kind of went throughout the week, and there would be new numbers and new colors, and then there would be this sort of elaborate week-long story around these various numbers and colors and words and shapes. So it was really something, and he was into it. My point is, to your point, Andre, some toilet paper rolls and pieces of paper, a sheet and some scissors, and all of a sudden you have an entire kingdom with characters and this world. But it requires us as adults to be fully present, and so it's a tough tension between being fully present on the ground playing with Hot Wheels versus you being on your screen and them being on their screen. Totally different experiences. And in these modern times, I just don't know how many are invested like that. I don't know. It's going to digress. It's 5:02. Let me land this plane because some of my colleagues have work to do. So Fabian, why don't I give you the last word, and then we'll go ahead and shut this party down. Fabian, welcome back to the stage. Mike is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Husan. Great room, great topic. Looking forward to the next one. I think we're leaving a lot on the table. And what I mean by that is we look so much to government and the Board of Education, our respective school systems, way too much. It's so politicized right now that it's really incumbent on us to retake our power. We are enough, Husan. We are enough. We're always waiting on this administrator to do this and create. No. Look at this room. Look at the power that we have within this room. Look at the talented people we have in this room. And this is what we have in our respective communities. We can go out there, create our own programs to support one another, but it starts with setting the example by the adults not being on the screen and being addicted. So how are we going to tell our young ones not to be addicted when our head is stuck on a screen for half of our days? So it starts really with developing a relationship with our students, with our young ones, by figuring stuff out together and realizing that it's going to take some time. This is not going to be an overnight thing. Thank you.
No, thank you. I said it on Sunday's conference, so I'm not going to over elaborate on this point, but I think that our pain, reward, deep evolutionary biology system has been skewed out of balance. And I think there is a way to reverse that, but it does require us to reconsider our relationship with the technology. Even though it is not attached to our physical body, in a way, we can consider ourselves cyborgs because we have machine parts attached to us, which is the phone. There is a challenge to go anywhere without your phone. So there's a lot to be said about that. And I think you're right. We're going to have to leave a few things unsaid. Before I close down, I would be remiss if I didn't at least give Leticia an opportunity to give greetings to the room. And I'm not sure if anything came up because you might have missed a lot of it, but I'd love to at least hear your voice and wish you a great day today. Leticia, hey, good morning.
Hi, good day. Oh man, I'm sad I missed it, but great room as always. Fabian, I heard the last of what you said. Yeah, and you spoke to me right there because I've shared about my child's her addiction to the tablet. But you're right. I mean, hey, she called me out. She said, "Mommy, you're always on Instagram." I said, "Ouch." So yeah, we have to do better and set a better example.
Appreciate that share. So we're all in this together and we're walking it down slowly. And I appreciate you guys joining me on this journey. So I'll be back again Wednesday morning for homeroom as we continue to slow walk this thing down. And then on Sunday, we're really going to be looking at these platforms and trying to examine why they are in our lives as much as they are. So I appreciate you guys. And we'll go ahead and shut this party down. I'll see you around these streets. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Y'all have a great day. Peace, everybody. All right, homeroom, YouTube homeroom. I appreciate you guys, and I'm glad that you're here. Leticia, I have to check, but I believe that you have been designated as a proper moderator. I don't know if I have, how do I say? I don't know what that looks like. So maybe we can tap in. I think we're actually on schedule. So I'll look forward to seeing you. And for everyone else who might be enjoying this as a replay, if you've made it this far in the show, then maybe there's something of value here for you as well. So please follow the channel. I'm on a growth phase right now. As of my last review, I've got 166 subscribers. And so if that's you, I thank you for being part of our community. We're having important conversations here. And if you could do your part by helping to spread the word, I would appreciate it. I'm not chasing down the algorithm. I really am focused on providing the highest quality content available in this sector. And so if you can just help me, yes, to be algorithm friendly, but ultimately to spread the word that we exist to your teacher bestie, to your colleague, to that person that you know that's a parent that's struggling with this as well. Help me to get the word out, I think is going to be my key call to action at this time. So yes, you can check out the post that I have on the page. You can look at our previous replay. We did a whole walk down of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're sort of at the 10 to 20% mark on this issue of screen time. So I've got a lot more ahead of me than behind me. So if you could share this with somebody who might be interested, I would certainly appreciate that. We are on a public launch campaign, but I'm not going to drop the link this time. I just want to show you that we're here, that we're doing service first, and we'll ask for your support a little bit later on, especially if you join us on the journey and you find something of value. So I appreciate you all, and I will see you on the next one, which is, do you want more? It's an essential question. And the answer to that question is we will be back Wednesday for the morning show, which is about 1 hour and 7 minutes ago, whatever time zone you're in. So for us, that would be 4 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. Eastern. We go for about an hour-ish. And then we do 2-hour sessions on Sundays. So I'll give you more details as you follow along, but I just want to say welcome to the journey, and I'm glad that you're here. And